Where do the most famous monsters really come from? Well, sometimes it's not from a shadowy lab, but from a terrifying nightmare. A nightmare in the mind of a teenage girl. A vision so powerful it would literally change literature forever. This is the incredible story of how Frankenstein was born. And that was her promise, right? After a waking nightmare gave her the entire idea for her story, Mary Shelley just knew she'd tapped into something deep, some kind of primal fear. She figured if it scared her that badly, it was bound to terrify others. And she was right. So, to really get where this nightmare came from, we have to set the scene. The stage for this creation wasn't just a single evening, but this really strange and gloomy summer that literally plunged Europe into darkness. It's kind of wild to think about, isn't it? A massive volcanic eruption on the other side of the planet throws so much ash into the air that it causes the year without a summer in Europe. All this cold, stormy weather trapped a group of literary geniuses indoors, which led to a challenge that changed everything. And what a crew, seriously. You've got Mary, her soon-to-be husband, the poet Percy Shelley, the rock star poet Lord Byron, and his doctor John Polidori. Just imagine the creative energy and probably the cabin fever in that house day after day with non-stop rain outside. So to keep from going stir-crazy, they'd read ghost stories to each other. But their conversations went way deeper than that. They were debating the very nature of life, talking about the latest scientific buzz around something called galvanism, this idea that maybe, just maybe, you could use electricity to reanimate dead tissue. Could a corpse actually be brought back to life? And even if it could, should it be? All these questions were just planting seeds in Mary's mind. With all these huge ideas swirling around, the pressure from Lord Byron's ghost story contest was building. And that's when inspiration finally struck. But it wasn't a gentle muse. Oh no. It was a full-blown, terrifying vision. I mean, can you imagine the pressure? She's just 18 years old, surrounded by these celebrated poets who are already cranking out their stories, and she's got nothing. The debates about creating life were just echoing in her head, keeping her wide awake. Now, this is the key part. It wasn't just a dream she remembered the next morning. It was what she called a waking nightmare. She said she saw it all unfold with her eyes shut, but with this awful, crystal-clear mental vision. So, here's what she saw. A pale student of science kneeling over this thing he had stitched together. The scene was just chilling, quiet, and filled with this horrible sense of dread. And then it moves. She sees the creature's limbs start to stir with this hideous, jerky motion. This wasn't some beautiful miracle of creation. In her vision, it was absolutely grotesque. But this is the kicker. The vision didn't end with a scientist yelling, "It's alive!" in triumph. It ended with the creator's immediate and overwhelming terror. He was disgusted, horrified by the very life he had just brought into the world. Mary woke up, completely terrified. But that terror, it quickly morphed into this incredible rush of excitement. She had it. That was her story. The fear she felt was exactly what she wanted her readers to feel. She finally knew what to write. So, armed with this horrifying vision as her guide, Mary started to write. But what began as a simple entry for a ghost story contest, well, it was about to become something so much bigger. She literally started writing the very next day. But you know, an idea this big, this powerful, it just couldn't be contained in a little ghost story. It kept growing, evolving into this complex philosophical novel that was going to ask questions nobody'd ever really dared to ask in fiction before. This is one of the huge questions at the heart of the book. It's not just about the act of making something, it's about what you owe your creation after it exists. What is a creator's duty to the thing they bring into this world? And that brings us to maybe the most famous question the book asks, one that we're still debating today. Mary Shelley completely flips the script, forcing us to look past the creature's monstrous appearance and really examine the actions of its creator, Victor Frankenstein. So, who's the real monster here? See, the book's argument is that monsters aren't born, they're made. Victor's real sin isn't playing God, it's that he creates life and then immediately abandons it out of disgust. The creature, he doesn't start out evil, he only turns violent after the entire world, starting with his own creator, rejects him with cruelty. It's a powerful take on nature versus nurture. So, when this novel was finally unleashed on the world, it shocked pretty much everyone.
And its legacy, well, it started to take on a life of its own, a lot like the creature itself.
At first, nobody had a clue that a young woman wrote it. It was published anonymously. When Mary's name was finally revealed, some critics were just hostile. They argued that a story so horrifying and grotesque simply couldn't have come from the mind of a proper lady. But the thing is, this book was a total game changer. Mary Shelley didn't just write a horror story. She basically invented a whole new genre. Today, Frankenstein is seen as one of the very first science fiction novels, a powerful cautionary tale about where unchecked scientific ambition could lead us. And in a crazy twist of irony, just like Victor lost control of his creation, Mary's story took on a life of its own. It was adapted for the stage, then for movies, and the monster became this massive cultural icon, often misunderstood, but never, ever forgotten. So why are we still talking about it over 200 years later? Because the stuff that scared people back then, it's the exact same stuff that scares us today. Unchecked ambition, the ethics of AI, genetic engineering, and at the bottom of it all, our fundamental responsibility for the things we create. The story feels more relevant now than ever before. When you boil it all down, that's the ultimate warning, isn't it? Victor Frankenstein's failure wasn't just that he played God. It's that he played God without a single shred of empathy or compassion for the life he so carelessly tossed into the world. And that leaves us with a pretty chilling question for our own time. As we are literally on the verge of creating advanced AI and all kinds of new technologies, are we remembering the lesson from Mary Shelley's nightmare? Or are we too at risk of making powerful new things only to turn away from them, forgetting that compassion is the most important part of creation?